Okay, now that you're familiar with all the late game comps in the game, I'm going to be talking about like how to get there, or what makes you decide what comp to play. Like what are the factors early mid game that help you decide what comp you're going to be pivoting into stage 4, stage 5 late game. So in the early game, you're going to be, this is like if you're trying to play flexibly, you do need to slam items and play strongest board with whatever chosen you're given and whatever item you're given. So I've listed the items that I think are slammable early game items. So Zeke's, Chalice, Morello, Guardian Angel, Warmogs, Jeweled Gauntlet, Rabadon's, Locket, Guinsoo's Rageblade, Last Whisper, Runon's, Sunfire, Infinity Edge, Gunblade, Gargoyle, Ionic Spark, Hodge, Thief's Gloves, Dragonclaw, Deathblade. All of these items I will usually slam if I'm given the item components at stage 2. And I'll talk about it later, how slamming items can help you decide what comp you're going to play. The items I don't usually slam are going to be Bramble, Redemption, Zephyr, Titans, Ludens, Bloodthirster, Shojin, Static Shiv, Shroud, Trapclaw, Blue Buff, QSS, RFC, ZZ Rot, Frozen Heart, Giant Slayer. So these items I feel like don't have a lot of value early game. And also if you slam them, you're going to get really dizzy late game because not a lot of late game units use these items. Notice I don't usually, never say never. Sometimes you are going to be slamming it depending on like what other items you got and stuff like that. Like sometimes I will slam a Bramble if I get super good value from it. Like if I have a chosen if I have a chosen frontliner like Tom Kench or something, I get dropped like a chain bow, right? And I'm trying to go for win streak, I will slam the Bramble on Tom Kench to try to go for win streak. You know, same thing as Redemption and Zephyr. Like something you slam it, but usually like these items I don't really slam. And I think you can see like maybe some items that might surprise you. Maybe RFC. Like, oh, why wouldn't you slam RFC? It's like a really good item to kill, right? But the thing is, RFC is so bad early game. It doesn't even do anything. If you slam RFC, you're not even going. It's not even going to like change the outcome of the fight. So you're better off saving the bow for getting a better item with the bow from first carousel, like either Last Whisper or Runon's or like Rageblade. So that's why I usually don't slam RFC, because it doesn't do anything early game. With these items in mind, whatever items you end up slamming stage 2 and stage 3, it can help you determine what comps you want to play. Because right now in this set, items are more important this set than last set. So whatever items you end up building, it actually heavily influences what you can or cannot play, or what you should or should not play. So I give you some examples here. Like, let's say you end up slamming a Zeke's and Chalice because it's your strongest board, or it has a lot of value on your board right now. You're going to be looking to play Kale and not Slayers. I've seen some people say like, oh, Zeke's and Chalice can actually go in like every comp, which is pretty true. But if I ever slam a Zeke's or Chalice, I don't want to play Slayers, because Zeke's and Chalice actually don't have that much value in Slayers. And you want to save the sword for GA, absolutely, if you want to play Slayers. So if you slam the Zeke's already, the chances of you getting GA is actually not that high. So then I wouldn't, if I slam Zeke's, I would just automatically like try to play, like move towards the Kale route other than Slayers. Like never say never. You know, if you slam Zeke's and Chalice and you roll down, you hit a chosen Tryndamere or Olaf, and you end up still having GA and Last Whisper, of course you're going to be playing Slayers. But it's just a general guideline. Like when I'm slamming Zeke's, I'm going to look to play Kale, because Zeke's and Chalice has a lot of value in Kale. It's usually like an easier transition into Kale. You don't have to, like, if you slam Zeke's and Chalice, you are going to probably have a stronger board, which means you're probably not going to have carousel priority, which means you're not going to get swords, because swords are always gone in the beginning. So which means like unless you natural another sword, you're probably not going to be getting GA. You're probably not going to be getting like Deathblade or IE or whatever, right? Another example is if you slammed Runon's, you're going to look to play Shyvana Brawlers, or you're going to look to play Slayers. You're not going to look to play Kale, right? Let's say early game you get dropped to Runon's, and you also get dropped to Callista. Are you slamming Runon's? Yes, of course. Runon's has so much value on Callista. But if you slam Runon's on Callista, in your mind you're not going to be looking to play Kale, because Runon's is actually pretty bad in Kale comp. You know, you could put it on Kale, it still works, but it's not the best item. So if I'm slamming Runon's, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna be playing Slayers or Brawlers this game. So I will look to like get Chosens or get early game boards. Just keep in mind like what I'm going to be doing at level 7 and level 8, and I'm not gonna be looking to play Kale. Another example is like, you know, if I slam Last Whisper, automatically I'm gonna play Sivir or Slayers, because Last Whisper is really good on Sivir or Slayers, but Last Whisper is like essentially useless on Kale. So then it's like stuff like this. So like What I mean is like some early game items, if you slam it, you can automatically like give you like, it kind of gives you like direction basically, so you won't get dizzy. Another example, if you slam Gunblade, you're probably not playing Slayers, right? Because Gunblade is like so useless in Slayers. You're probably looking to play an AP oriented comp, right? Aesol, KO, you know, Nico, whatever. If you slam IE, you're probably looking to play Talon, Akali, or Talon, Slayers, or Akali. You're probably not playing KO. You're probably not playing Aesol. If you end up slamming Rabadons, you're looking to play Fabled, KO, or Aesol. You're probably not gonna play Slayers. If you end up slamming Deathblade, you're gonna look for an AD comp, no Aesol, no KO, basically. This gives you direction. It also helps you figure out like what items to go for from the carousel. If you have a comp in mind, it's easier to know what items to go for, which gives you an edge over the other players. I hope that kind of makes sense, because like I don't want you to go into the game like, okay, I'm gonna hard force KO, and then you get dropped like a Kalista and Runons, and you don't want to slam Runons because you want to play KO. You want to save the bow for Gwynstoo's or RFC. That's like absolutely the wrong play. You should slam the Runons on Kalista and then look to play, you know, Brawlers or Slayers, something like that. Like if you get dropped like Chosen Tristana and you have Last Whisper, but you're like in your mind you're like, oh, I want to play KO, I'm not gonna slam the Last Whisper. That's totally wrong. Tristana with Last Whisper is super good, so you should slam the Last Whisper on Tristana and look to play an AD comp, something like that. The next thing is you need to play around your early and mid game board. So what I mean by this is, depending on whatever early game chosen you get, it will also, besides items, it will also heavily influence what comp you're probably going to play. And I'll go into that more. Like depending on chosen, it will determine what your early / mid game board will look like, which in turn will help give you direction what late game comp to play and what not to play. So let's say you get the Fiora chosen. Automatically, if I'm getting Fiora chosen, I already know I'm probably not playing Nico. I'm probably not playing Aesol. I'm probably playing either Talon, Kale, or Slayers. Because if you pick up Fiora chosen, your early and mid game comp is you're going to be playing Yasuo's, you're going to be playing Jax's, right? For the 4 duelist. If you find Kalista, you're going to be playing Kalista over Yasuo. You're going to be playing Janna for the Enlightened, and you're going to be playing Aurelia for the Divine Enlightened. You're going to be playing Yuumi to round out the Mystic. Are you going to pivot, like at level 7, level 8, are you going to pivot this board into Aesol or Fabled? Of course not. Like you don't want to, like you probably have a Jax 2, you have a Janna 2, you have an Aurelia 2. You don't want to sell all this and just pivot into a completely different board. So what can you play from this, right? So obviously you can easily pivot to Kale, right? You just add in Kale, you take out Kalista, you take out Fiora, you keep the Aurelia and Jax, you keep the Janna, you can keep the Yuumi, you can keep the Janna, you can keep the Yuumi, and then you're just putting in Kindred, and then you basically have your kill board, right? It's an easy, clean transition. So when you pick up the Fiora chosen, like, you know, you can, in your mind, you're like, okay, I can try to play KO, if depending on what items you get, right? And what chosen you get on roll down. Let's bring the Fiora back. This is your board, right? If I want to play Talon, what do I do? Okay, so probably sell the Kalista, sell the chosen Fiora, and then I will put in Talon, I will put in Shen, I will put in Morgana. I will be keeping Aurelia and usually Jax, right? So it's an easy transition. Like if you have Fiora chosen and you get a bunch of sword items, you can look to play Talon. If you get a bunch of bows, you can look to play Kale. Another example, Fiora chosen, let's say you want to play Slayers. So people can say, oh, like this board doesn't look like Slayers, but Slayers is so flexible that your core units are 3 Slayers and you can just play whatever. So basically, like let's say you want to play Slayers, you got a lot of swords and you roll down, you hit like Tryndamere chosen or something, you can take out the Fiora and you can just play Tryndamere here. You actually get 4 duelists, which is super good, and all you need is 3 Slayers, right? So you can just put in the Pyke and you put in a Slayer bot like Olaf. And there you go, we have a 3 Slayer, 4 duelist, 2 Mystic board. You're keeping the Aurelia and Jax. This board isn't even that bad, and then now you're playing the Slayers. This is what I mean by like whatever early game chosen you get, it can help you give you direction, which in turn can help you, you know, decide what items to get from carousel and stuff like that. So let's say another example, right? I'll give you another example. Let's say you do get the TF chosen and it's Mage. So what are you going to be playing with TF Mage, right? You're obviously your early mid game, you're going to be playing Annie, probably. You're going to be playing Lulu. You're going to be playing Brand for the 5 Mage. You're going to be playing, if you get Veigar, you play Veigar, and then if you get an Elderwood, you probably play a Rakan, something like this. So you have 5 Mage, 3 Elderwood mid game. Are you going to play Kale from here? Probably not. Like, you don't want to, you have the Lulu 2, Veigar 2, Rakan 2. You're not going to sell the whole thing and just pivot into Kale. It's like way too hard. So what comps can you play? You know, you can play Elderwood Aesol, you can play 7 Mages, You could play 6 Dragon Soul Aesol. You can just play Aesol because you'll probably be keeping the Lulu. You know, you can keep the Veigar maybe. Depending on your items, like maybe you played Rakan with Jarvan for keepers. What can you play? And let's say you built the Morello on TF. What can you play? You can play the Kennen Keeper comp. You just sell these 3. You keep the Rakan and Jarvan, and then you can play. It's easy transition into Kennen. So what I'm trying to say here is like whatever traits you end up with early mid game, it can help decide like what late game comps. You basically you don't want to sell like your whole board and do a full board pivot. You usually want to just sell your chosen and then just put in the 4 cost carries that goes along with your board. It's an easier transition, it's cleaner, and it costs way less gold. That's what I mean by like how it gives you direction. Like another example, you get a cultist chosen, you'll probably be playing keepers. Maybe you play mages with TF, maybe you play sharpshooters with Sivir. It's an easy pivot into mages, keepers, Sivir. You're probably not playing Talon if you get a cultist chosen. You're probably not playing Fabled if you get a cultist chosen, right? But keep in mind, it's not like 100% like you can't play. Never say never. You could do a full board pivot into Kale, you know, if you're like super rich, or if you get like the perfect items for Kale and you get Kale chosen and you have like a bunch of Kale units on your bench already, you could pivot into Kale. Never say never. But usually you don't want to do a full board pivot, and the early game chosen should give you a rough idea of what comp you're going to be playing. All right, next I'm going to be talking about rolling at level 6 and level 7. I'm not going to be talking about rolling at level 8 because everyone knows at level 8 you're for sure going to roll and just like roll down for your final board. But I'm going to be diving into like when to roll at level 6 and 7 and what you're kind of looking for. So this is kind of hard to explain, but I'll try my best. It heavily depends on what your current HP is, what is the strength of your board versus the lobby, what is your econ looking like, what is your chosen, what's your bench, how many pairs you have, and many more. So it actually depends on a lot of factors. So when to roll at 6, which is usually stage 3-2. If you have like multiple pairs, like 2 or 3 pairs, usually you should roll to the lower econ interval. Like if you have 30 gold, roll to 20 gold, roll to 10 gold, try to hit your pairs. It's usually worth, and you're usually going to hit your pairs. If you don't hit your pairs, it's just unlucky. Like, but it is usually the right play to do. If you're losing a lot of fights, like stage 2, and your board is pretty weak, you probably need to roll to try to make your board stronger. Because if you're pretty weak stage 2, you're probably going to be pretty weak stage 3. If you're losing fights, you probably need to sell your chosen and roll for a newer chosen. So let's say this is your board at level 5, and let's say you slammed a Last Whisper on, you have a Nidalee chosen, and you slam Last Whisper on Nidalee chosen, right? And then you have like a Braum 1, Garen 1, Tristana 1, Bran 1, whatever, everything is 1 star. And then you lost like a lot of fight stage 2. You're going into stage 3, right? What can you do at level 6? For sure, you probably need to roll because your board is not strong enough. You have 2 options. You can keep the Nidalee chosen and roll for like Tristana 2, Garen 2, Braum 2, or Bran 2 or something like that if you have pairs. But what I would probably do if you're losing fights is I would probably sell the Nidalee chosen, and I would roll down for a chosen that goes along with my board. And what I'm looking for is I'm also looking for back, like Teemo chosen can work, you know, which is probably better. Sivir chosen will work because Sivir is like way better than Nidalee. You can maybe get like a Braum chosen. You can get a frontline chosen. Tristana chosen is probably better. You can sell the Nidalee chosen, roll down, maybe you hit a Kindred chosen, and then you just play a Teemo to get the spirit. This also works too. You can just put the Last Whisper on Kindred, it's not even that bad. If you're losing fight stage 2, you're pretty weak, and you still have like a 1 cost chosen, you usually do want to sell your chosen to get like a 2 cost or 3 cost chosen and remake your board. But you don't want to remake your whole board. Like you like, let's say you have the Garen 2, you have the Braum 2, and you sold the Nidalee chosen, you already have your frontline established. You're not rolling for another frontline chosen. You're looking for a backline chosen. So Kindred, Sivir, Teemo, Janna chosen works, you know, whatever. Since they changed the chosen odds, sometimes you pick up a chosen in stage 2 just to save some HP. What I mean by that is, let's say I played this game once where I had Jax and Fiora as my 2 frontliners. I had Jax 2 and Fiora 2, but then I picked up a Nidalee sharpshooter chosen. I had like Jeweled Gauntlet. I picked up the Nidalee sharpshooter because I had my frontline established, so I needed backline access, right? So that's why in stage 2 I picked up Warlord Nidalee. I knew I probably wasn't going to win stage 2 a lot, but it will save me a lot of HP. So I picked up this Nidalee, and at level 632, since it doesn't really go well with my board, right? I sold in Italy and I rolled down for a better board and playing around my Jackson Fiora. So I ended up getting a Callista, and I ended up hitting a Cultist Vladimir chosen, which is super good for my comp because I have Callista, and I just transfer the Jewel Gauntlet onto Vladimir. So like this is another reason why you would roll at level 6 if your chosen is kind of awkward with your comp, and it's usually not that strong, or if your chosen is like a little bit too weak. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, and it comes with experience, but generally that's when you want to roll at level 6. Basically, like if you want a new chosen, or if your current chosen is too weak, or if you have pairs, you do roll. The goal when you roll is to stabilize, right? You don't want to just roll like 2 or 3 gold, 2 or 4 gold. If you're trying to stabilize, you don't want to just roll a little bit and stop if you're not stable. If you need to stabilize, you need to roll even to 0 gold if you need to stabilize. Stabilizing is number 1 priority, and econ is number 2. Usually you don't want to go below 10, because if you go below 10, it actually sets you really far back. But sometimes you have to roll to 0, and it's way better than just having a weak board, staying at 10 gold, and just losing infinite HP at stage 3. Another reason to roll at level 6 is if you lost all of stage 2, if you open forted, you 100% need to roll at level 6. Because if you open forted stage 2, that means your board is extremely weak, and you need to roll at level 6 to create a stable board. So TLDR, if you need a better board, or if you need a more stable board, you should roll at level 6. So next thing is when to roll at level 7. I think a lot of people struggle at this part, because obviously if you can go fast 8, it's the easiest. You just sell your chosen and roll down for the final comp. But then when you're forced to roll at 7, a lot of people get dizzy and don't know what they're rolling for. Usually they're rolling for the final comp at level 7 and they don't hit and go 8th. So I'm going to be explaining like what I'm usually looking out for when I'm rolling at 7. So first of all, if you have multiple pairs, it's always worth to roll at level 7, even if you're like streaking or like really strong. If you have multiple pairs, you should roll a little bit, try to hit the pairs. Another reason to roll at 7 is if you cannot go fast 8 at 4-5, which means if you cannot go level 8 at 4-5 and pivot to a board with a lot of econ, you should roll down and get a strong board to last all of stage 4. Because if you can't fast 8 at 4-5, that means you're going 8 at stage 5-1, right? So that means you need to last from 4-1 to 5-1. So that means you need a board that's actually strong enough to not take a lot of damage from stage 4-1 to stage 5-1. So if you think your board is like a little bit too weak, you do want to roll a little bit to make your board stronger. And like if you are going to be rolling a little bit, should you sell your chosen or not? That honestly depends on your board as well. If your chosen is like the core of your board, you don't sell it. But if you think you can sell the chosen and get a better chosen, and you're going to roll anyways, you should sell the chosen. So if you want a new chosen, you sell the chosen and roll for a better board along with the new chosen. So I'll give you an example of this, because some chosens are strong stage 2 and stage 3, but they fall off super hard stage 4. I'll give you an example of this. So let's say your comp is Jax Fiora, you picked up the Yasuo chosen early game, you have the like Runons, GA, like let's say it's like this. Let's say you picked up Yasuo chosen, you have the Runons, Last Whisper, and GA on Yasuo, you have the Janna, and you have like the Callista, and this is a duelist chosen. You have the Aurelia, right? So from this spot, you look at your items, what comp are you going to play? Not KO, right? You can play Talon, you can play Tryndamere Slayer, or you can play Olaf Slayer, right? Probably. So at 4-1, level 7, let's say you're not even that healthy, you're pretty like low HP, you're kind of like not that rich either to fast 8. So this Yasuo chosen, Yasuo is a pretty strong stage 2, stage 3, but he falls off stage 4. So what would I do? So at stage 4-1, I'm going to roll at 7. I'm going to be selling the Yasuo, and I'm going to be rolling down for Callista 2. And I'm going to be transferring the items to Callista 2. So Callista will be my new item holder, because Callista is way better than Yasuo stage 4. And then I'm going to be looking to 2-star my Aurelia, Jax, Fiora. Something like that. And then, like, let's say I roll down, and then you're looking for, you can try to get the Yuumi 2. Let's say you hit 1 Tryndamere, you can play Tryndamere in. And then like you're just rolling down for a chosen that actually fits in this comp. So what fits in this comp? Maybe like a Cultist Pike, right? Let's say I get a Cultist Pike. You pick that up. You get the 3 Cultists and you get a Pike 2, which is really strong. Let's say you roll down and you hit Sivir chosen. Like you don't hit Callista 2, you have Sivir chosen. You just put in Sivir. You put the items on Sivir. Let's say you get like a Sharpshooter Sivir. Then this will probably be your comp, right? You're just playing this front line with Sivir. And then level 8, you're pivoting to Slayers. Something like that. So here's like another example. Like let's say this is your board at level 6 and it's 4-1, you're going to level 7, you have the Divine Wukong chosen. Wukong falls is like really good, it's pretty good stage 2, stage 3, but he falls off stage 4. So what I would use if I'm going to be rolling at 7 anyways, I'm going to be selling the Wukong and I'm going to be looking for a better chosen, right? So what's a better chosen? Like you know, within my board, Sivir chosen is really good. A frontline chosen like Braum chosen is pretty good. You know, maybe even like a Vanguard Nautilus. You know, Yuumi chosen, Janna chosen, Teemo chosen, Kindred chosen. There's actually a lot of like options here. So that's what I mean by like, if you want a new chosen, sell the chosen and roll for a better board along with a new chosen. If you're low HP and playing for top 6, you're just gonna roll at level 7 to 0 gold just to stabilize and play for top 6. That's another reason to roll at level 7 for 1. Another reason is if you're committed or transitioning to a level 7 comp, which means if you're playing Keepers, Brawlers, Sivir, Fabled, these comps, what I mean by level 7 comp, it means that it spikes pretty well at level 7. It basically means you're playing a 3-cost carry. So Keepers is Kennen, you know, Brawlers is Shyvana, Fabled is Nico, Sivir is Sivir. So it's really likely that you're going to be hitting 2 stars of these carries. So if you're committed to playing one of these comps, it's good to roll at 7 to try to 2-star the carry, and you go from there. The level 7 comps, they're generally safer to play to get top 4, but they have like lower cap than like Slayers and Kayle. If you do have the HP to tank until stage 4-5, and you have like you know you have about 40 to 50 gold to roll at stage 4-5, level 8, while like not going below 40 HP, you do want to go 8 at 4-5 because it's really OP because they nerfed the chances of getting 4-cost chosens at level 7. So getting a 4-cost chosen at stage 4 is actually super good, super strong. So if you can fast 8 at stage 4-5, you always want to. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is like, what are you looking for at your level 6 and 7 roll down? So this baits a lot of people. What I was talking about earlier, this baits a lot of people because if someone's playing Slayers and they're rolling down at 7 and they're trying to hit Sedge 2, Aatrox 2, Olaf 2, Tryndamere 2, you're not going to hit that. And you're probably just gonna, like, you're too fixated on that board. You're gonna end up playing Sedge 1, Aatrox 1, Olaf 1, Pyke 1, Tryndamere 1, and then your board is gonna be extremely weak. You're just gonna bleed out and die. At level 6, just keep in mind your goal to rolling is you're going to upgrade your 1-cost and 2-cost units. You're probably not going to get a 2-star 3-cost unit, but like, you know, the Garen 2s, the Nidalee 2s, you know, the Braum 2s, the Tristana 2s, you're probably looking to upgrade those, like Fiora, Jax's, stuff like that. At level 7, you're looking to upgrade your 1, 2, and 3-cost units. So like the Sivirs, the Kallistas, the Aurelias, the Yuumis, the Jannas, the Kindreds, stuff like that. You should not expect to 2-star a 4-cost carry unless you high roll. You know, obviously you might high roll the Olaf 2 or Tryndamere 2, but just keep in mind when you're rolling down at 7, you're not looking to 2-star the carry. You're probably just going to hit the 1-star carry, and you can put items on it, but usually it's going to be, the items are going to be stronger on a 2-star 3-cost, like Kalista or Sivir. So some examples, like if you're looking to play Kayle, right, and you're forced to roll at 7, you're not rolling down for Kayle 2, you're rolling down for Jax 2, Aurelia 2, Kindred 2, Yuumi 2. You pick a good chosen with your board, you know, maybe a Teemo chosen or something, or a Janna chosen or something, or like a Jax chosen, Aurelia chosen, whatever. And then you can have like Teemo 2 carry the Kayle items, like Guinsoo's and Rabadons or whatever. You know, Kalista 2 can also hold Kayle items, Guinsoo's, RFC, whatever you have built already, you're already committed to Kayle. So that's an example. Another example is if you're playing Slayers, you have like a Vanguard frontline, whatever, you can look to 2-star your Braum, 2-star Pyke, 2-star the Teemo, 2-star Sivir, Kalista, have them hold the Slayer items for now, and then you pivot into Slayers and Kayle at level 8. You can have Kayle 1, Olaf 1, Tryndamere 1 hold items, but sometimes it's not stronger than the Kalista 2, Sivir 2. You know, it is easier to just play these units at 1-star to hold the items, because it is still pretty strong, and you don't have to hold infinite eco on your bench. So yeah, basically, like, you're not looking for a full Slayer or Kayle board. It's usually not possible, so don't expect to hit the Sedge 2, Aatrox 2, Shen 2, but you're rolling down for the 2-cost and 3-cost. And that's it for my 11.5 guide. Hopefully this is helpful, but to be honest, it's very, very hard to explain, like, how to play this patch. Like, compared to my 11.3 guide, I told you what chosen to get equals what comp, what chosen equals what comp. But for this one, I think it depends more on whatever your board looks like early mid-game, and it depends on what items you end up slamming to play your strongest board. and then you have multiple options available at level 7 and level 8, and you go from there. Let me know if I missed any comps, and I'll see you guys next time.